Hello, everyone. We're so happy to be here today. I have Erica Lockheimer, VP of Engineering and LinkedIn Learning. And before I'm going to hand it over to her for an introduction, I just wanted to introduce myself. So I joined LinkedIn Learning in 2016. I joined specifically to launch LinkedIn Learning, and that's because I believe LinkedIn is uniquely positioned to really change the landscape of learning. So we went ahead and we launched LinkedIn Learning. It was a successful launch. We established our vision, which was to empower every member of the global workforce to develop the skills they need so they can realize their opportunity. And that was the point where I met Erica. So Erica, I'm going to give it to you for an introduction.
Thank you, Moore. So hi, I'm Erica Lockheimer. I've been at LinkedIn in about a month. It'll be 10 years, so quite a while. I'm VP of Engineering for the LinkedIn Learning team. I've been doing that for the last 2 years, and then I headed the growth team for LinkedIn, where we were in a hyper growth, just growing the network and growing people on our economic graph. I've been in the industry for over 20 plus years, and my background is computer engineering, so I'm excited to be here.
Great. So I think this is such an interesting time to have a conversation about education, especially with COVID, because our workforce has now moved to a remote workforce. And I think, I think where we can start maybe is just sharing some of the trends you've seen, some of the things that we've learned on LinkedIn Learning. I think that will be a good starting point.
Yeah, great starting point. We have learned so much in this new climate. It is amazing to see that how hungry people are to learn in this moment. I mean, from March, April, and May, we've seen 2.4x the amount of hours learned. And that's equivalent to about 140% increase on hours. In May alone, if we were to compare how we were doing last year, we're at 5x the number of hours. People are just hungry to learn in this moment, and it's great that we're able to deliver those needs that they have. Another thing that we're also noticing is that people want to be more social when they're learning as well. So we've seen a tremendous amount in increase in joining our groups. It's up 600%. And then also where people can ask questions and answers on a course they just learned. So the social aspect in this distant learning aspect is really coming together, and we're able to provide that on our platform.
And you know what I love the fact that it's COVID and people are at home and they're isolated and they're seeking that social engagement. But social learning is not necessarily like a new concept for us, right?
Right. Yeah, it's not. I think about some of the ways that, I even learned throughout my career. I think I graduated from college 20 years ago. And I remember even when I came, out of school, it was during the .com days. So if you could put up a website, you were a genius. But I had just graduated from school. It was computer engineering, hardware and software. I didn't know how to put up a website. I had to learn in that moment. So there's always this gap where you're going to have to continue to learn and always be learning mentality. And I've learned that throughout my entire career. So yes, we're learning in this distant moment, we're learning in this new moment, but that's happened throughout my entire career. I remember in, the web movement, talk about the mobile movement. None of us went to school to do mobile development. And all of a sudden you had iOS, Android, and we had to now create our solutions on mobile devices. That was another moment where we had to learn. And then now you think in this new movement with AI, all of us are needing to either reskill or upskill in that moment. So it's real exciting to see, but it is not such a new concept, but it definitely has accelerated the need.
Yeah. And I think relevant for our audience, I think maybe this is not a known fact that a large portion of LinkedIn Learning accounts are actually higher ed. Mm-hmm. So we know that they are working with us to adapt and change. And I think it would be interesting to hear a little bit how LinkedIn Learning is working with these institutes and what's the goal, right? Because you just talked about how going to college and transitioning to becoming a learner. And we heard a lot in the summit. I heard a lot in different panels on preparing our student to join the workforce, right? So let's hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah, there's definitely, I'd give you 2 examples. And it is, think about, we have one customer, Los Angeles Community College District. And that's a community college. The median age is about 24, 27 years old, where they're either going back to skill because they need to relearn or learn a new skill, or they're just starting off. And what we're finding is that we're now partnering with these community colleges because they need to add LinkedIn Learning. Because the difference is our platform, we have over 13,000 courses. We are producing 50 courses a week. This is cutting edge material, right? You have your curriculum, which is so, so important to make sure that we get that to the students, but you need to basically couple it with the cutting edge technology of what's happening to get our students ready to have their careers, make the things that they are going to school for actually happen. We also have another university, Seton Hall, where they're partnering with us from the very beginning of their 4-year college degree, where they're coupling, again, LinkedIn Learning. And you think about the courses that we have, the number of languages that we support. We support over 6 languages. And it's really important to get these students ready, be career ready. And so if you couple that with LinkedIn Learning courses, they get certificates that they get to add to their profile. It makes them more marketable. It adds that little oomph that they need in their professional identity to get that job.
Yeah. I think it's so relevant, that transition that, finish classic education and now you're part of the workforce, but you cannot stop learning. You just can't, right? We've talked, again, this is something I heard in the summit. It really is about skills. And that's some of the things that we've heard when we did a case study with the LACCD, the Los Angeles Community College District, is that it is about skills. And that's really where LinkedIn Learning is trying to heavily lean. I know personally myself, when I immigrated from Israel, I had no idea what I was doing. And, I was very fortunate. I had good friends and good mentors, and they were the one who were like, okay, well, go online, go see what project management is. And that was over 10 years ago. And, it really built a career for me. So it's been the future. We know it's been the future for a long time. I think in general, we could talk a little bit about what we think is going to change, or really kind of the core question of what everyone are trying to answer is what is going to be that one element that really profoundly change in the next few years in education.
Yeah, I think right now, what is great is we have insights. Especially LinkedIn, we have this economic graph of people, jobs, and skills. And actually, just this past late June, we decided to partner with Microsoft and mind our economic graph to understand what are the top demanding jobs right now. So we found the top demanding jobs that people are trying to hire for right now, and then we're able to map them to skills. And then we have this other platform called LinkedIn Learning, where we can map those exact learning paths to those jobs. And we recently just made 10 learning paths for free to map to these jobs. And for example, you have program management, you have software developer. How can I become a software developer? We have listed about 10, 15 courses on how you can actually do that. So this is where people need to, again, potentially either reskill or upskill in this moment. I mean, I could talk to you personally, even my family members that I have right now, they are in a moment where they need to change their course of work. And she's at 49 years old, she owned her own business, for 25 years doing corporate events. Guess what? Social gathering is not a thing right now, and it's not going to be for some time. So she needs to reskill. She needs to upskill. And so I'm glad that we're able to make this platform available for others right now in this moment.
Yeah, it's super exciting. It is free and it's accessible for everyone. And there's so many of them, right? There's 10 different ones. There's project management, which I'm very passionate about, but there's also sales and IT, and there's a few other learning paths on there. And I think that, we're getting a little bit closer to our time, but I think that we do want to share that the way to access this, if you guys want to see this and hear more about what we're talking about and see these learning paths, you can find it in opportunity.linkedin.com. We should have a banner showing up somewhere. The people that are working the magic behind the scene are going to do that. But it is a really, really great resource. Really encourage everyone to go on there. So Erica, is there anything else that you want to really kind of leave with the audience here, which is an audience of educators, right? These are the people that are doing this on the ground. So I really, this is a great opportunity for us.
Yeah, I think what we all need to remember is we're all learning in this exact moment. So bringing the communities together and educators and people in the industry to figure out how we can build better solutions in this moment is really what it's all about. So I'm excited for a community like this to come together so we can learn from each other and so we can all rise together. So that's what I'm excited about.
Cool. Yeah, I think, so we have a little bit more time. So I think what could be interesting for us here is to Let's talk about what LinkedIn Learning is doing in the higher ed. I feel like there's a lot that we've learned from our case studies where LinkedIn Learning is weaved into the curriculum. So
Right.
it's actually like something we've seen teachers use in their class, and I think that's really interesting. Is there any more data we could that we could talk about?
Yeah, we're finding that, I mean, this is what students are yearning for. I mean, take a practical example, right? You're in the middle of your courses, right? All of a sudden, some emerging trend of a new skill starts to happen. By the time the right course is around it, for you to attend that course and then for you to actually take the time to learn that skill, it's all time. So the sooner that we can be closer to that cutting edge need of that skill, the better it will be for the need for demand of the workforce. And so I think this coupling of this partnership of the foundation of schools are so important. But you need to have this coupling of the latest, cutting edge skill requirements, because it's just changing that fast. It's hard for us to keep up. I'm even having a challenge to keeping up. Things are starting to change all the time. So I think the more that we can embrace that mentality and bring that together to, your traditional 4-year degree school or continuing education is really important. And there's a lot of great learning, platforms out there to help you do that.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of like distance learning, right? We just heard a little bit about it, is ability to have that kind of learning tools available from anywhere so your students can do it at any time. I think that's also something that we're going to see in the future extend itself more than it is available now.
Yeah, actually, on that note of learning anywhere, that is something that we added into our learning platform, where you can just listen and learn at the same time. Like, I'll take a jog, I'll take a run, I'll be getting ready in the morning, and I'll just listen to a course. And there's so many, the more you can multitask or, do it on the way, to eventually when we start commuting back to work. But those are just moments of being able to learn. So the more that we can be efficient of our time is really important. So I actually use audio learning all the time. It's a way, just like I do audio books, it just makes it a lot more efficient. And the more that you can if you look at some of our videos and some of our courses, some of them can be like 5 minutes. You complete a whole course, it can be 30 minutes, but I can just learn in these micro moments. And that's where people are at now as well.
Yeah. So it's like having that education accessible to you, and then also having the mentality of choosing when you go on a run to put in the headphones and listen to something new that you can learn. For me, I have a new baby, so it's while I'm cooking or with the baby, I have like headphones in and I'm learning some new skill that could be interesting. But that mentality of like, I am a lifelong learner. I always want to learn. I think that is going to be key to our future workforce member, lifelong learners. Those students right now, they need to really change their mentality. Like, it never ends. It just changes.
Right. And not only is it the moment that you need to take the time to learn, you need to take the time to practice what you learned. So that is also something that people have to remember. It's like, oh, I just learned this, but until you practice something, you do it over and over and over again, that's when it starts to really stick and you learn that skill. So that's why having, study groups or online, social groups where you can talk about this challenge. I mean, I think about when I first started coding, I had so many questions on, what this meant or how to practice. Because once you start doing it, you're like, oh, I ran into this bug and I ran into this bug. You don't understand it until you actually start practicing it. So I think that's also a key thing. So the more that we could be social at the same point of learning is also key.
Yeah, and you can learn from your group. I think that's why people are leaning towards social, right? Is because you learn from each other. Like, well, what better way is to learn than from people that have more experience than you or less experience than you and just different ideas.
Yeah, and it makes it more exciting, right? They say learning can be lonely, right? And so when you're learning from some people, that's the experience in itself. That also helps, you retain the knowledge that you just learned. So I think practicing with others is the most important thing, and it's been vital. Even I think about throughout my career, whether it was in person or distant, you have mentors. The same thing applies here. Nothing different.
Yeah, it's just that right now, we're on different kind of VC and videos, and not necessarily in person, but it doesn't change the fact that we need that social learning. And we've seen that, as you said, with COVID. I think we'll be seeing more of that. I think even if you choose to follow one of our learning paths, I think there's so many other people that are choosing to follow them. You have to keep that in mind. That's why we have questions and answers, and really just engage with the community. Even though it's online, it's still like very powerful because there's a bunch of people out there that are learning the same thing or wanting to learn the same thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Another interesting stat that we have seen is after someone completes a course, what they do is they share it on LinkedIn. And they say, hey, I just completed this. And then that creates a dialogue and this whole viral loop of this community automatically on that same topic. And we've seen shares also increase tremendously on the platform. So that's another signal of, us understanding what people need in this moment. So we're here.
Yeah. And when they complete it, their certificate is then added to their profile. So this is our way of adding and showing, hey, they've learned more. They're continuously learning. I think it's absolutely powerful to see it.
Yeah, and I think the more that people are learning to hire differently also falls into that, right? It's about the skills that people have learned along the way. And so these certificates are the proof and the hours spent to do that. So I think that's another trend that's definitely changing.
Right. Yeah. So we're college degrees, university degrees are the foundation. And that's really where we start. I think those skills, their certification is the future. Yeah. And that is where we really, if there was an ask that we could ask the audience of listening here, I feel it will be like, help us convert them into these lifelong learners, into this mentality of it never stops.
Yeah, it definitely is a naive approach. When I graduated from college 20 years ago, I thought I was one and done. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I don't need to continue doing this. It's definitely different now. So good. So, how we advance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I think we might be coming close to some questions.
Yeah. Yes. We're coming to an end, and throughout the summit, we've asked like this core question of what is the one element that will profoundly change within the next few years in the field of education. And I think we talked about it a little bit, but I think we can also summarize it. Would you like to go ahead, Erica?
I think we touched on it on many different angles throughout this conversation. And, the next few years, the field of education, I feel we'll definitely still have our traditional, universities, 4-year degrees. But again, it's just coupling, certificates. I think we'll have more weight and more value of those, whereas in the past, I'm not necessarily think that was also the case. So I think couple of things have to change. One is how people are learning. You're getting these new certificates or you're getting these new credentials, plus you have your 4-year degree behind you, but also the people that are hiring the talent. That is the most important thing that needs to change, right? Because it's a whole funnel process. If you only change one part of it, you're not actually changing the whole solution. So you need to make sure that people are starting to hire differently. And I can just tell you some other things that we've done at LinkedIn, where we created this program called Reach, where maybe someone went to a boot camp or they went to a 4-year degree or they changed majors and they don't have that traditional background of that checklist of how we're going to hire. We actually decided to go and pilot this. And we've been doing it for the last couple of years, where we did it within engineering. And some people just went to boot camp. We trained them how to be an engineer. We did this 9-month program after they did some foundational knowledge of showing us that they had the potential to learn. And then now, guess what? Majority of those people are all software engineers and even getting promotions at LinkedIn. It's really great to see. That people have the potential to learn. They just need the opportunity to do so. And so I think thinking like in that way is the pivot point of where we have to change.
Great. So we're getting close to our end time. So I just want to say, first of all, huge thank you, Erica, for making the time to have this conversation today. Even a bigger thank you for all of you who are listening in and having this important conversation in such a relevant moment in time, but just in general, a really important topic. Obviously something that both me and Erica are very passionate about. I do want to remind you that if you want to learn more about what we've talked about today, or maybe take one of our learning paths, share it with your students, share it with your friends, you can find more information on opportunity.linkedin.com. I really, really hope that everyone are going to enjoy their time in the summit and learn more. And thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you more.